Prince Harry has discovered that the British Home Office is harder to charm than Oprah during a primetime therapeutic confession, and somehow even less receptive to emotional hand-scribbled pleas sent from the sun-kissed hills of Montecito. The story begins quite spectacularly, with handwritten letters landing on the desks of Whitehall officials, each thudding down like an exhausted pigeon finally giving up mid-flight. Insiders swear they could almost hear the paperwork sighing back, whispering, "Not again," while civil servants rubbed their temples as though Harry's stationery carried a migraine by royal appointment. If you're already intrigued, do make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because this tale only grows stranger. What triggered this peculiar storm was the Times reporting that the Home Office had agreed to review the decision that once stripped Harry of automatic police protection. An announcement met with Westminster chuckles so discreet they might as well have been stirred into afternoon Earl Grey. The review was not, as Harry had hoped, a golden carriage gliding him back into the warm glow of royal privilege. It was more an administrative shrug, the bureaucratic equivalent of saying, "Fine, we'll look, but do keep your expectations as low as your approval ratings." Harry's hope, however, marched in with chest puffed and ego polished, imagining that perhaps this would be the moment Britain would cradle him once more with 24/7 security. After all, he insists the UK is far too dangerous for him to step foot in without an entourage the size of a football squad. Insiders are unconvinced. According to those quietly observing the unfolding spectacle, Britain itself is perfectly safe. It's Harry's ego that requires cushioning, preferably bubble-wrapped, held gently, and maybe read a bedtime story about relevance. Yet the irony is as delicious as a perfectly buttered crumpet. Even with this review, the outcome is almost certainly nothing. An elegant, resounding, aristocratic 0. His high court case had already collapsed with the grace of cheap wine served at a Buckingham gala, and the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, or RAVEC, an entity many imagine as a shadowy league of security wizards, has not exactly been spotted queuing up outside Costco for bulk discount armored vehicles on the Duke's behalf. In fact, the committee appears no more moved by Harry's plea than a granite statue listening to the wind. Still, the review marches on, a polite administrative dance carried out not for Harry's benefit, but because bureaucracy loves nothing more than a good folder to shuffle. Palace chatter insists the review is merely courtesy, like nodding pleasantly to a stranger you don't intend to speak to again. And even better, it gives Harry absolutely no new legal ammunition, no fresh grounds to relaunch lawsuits, no dramatic court scenes where he can describe security concerns in candlelit tones, invoking Princess Diana's ever-present spiritual glow. If RAVEC says no once more based on updated 2025 intelligence, that's the end. No appeals, no emergency legal choreography, just a clean, crisp, royal reality check. If you're still with me, my friend, remember to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps the channel survive more effectively than Harry's last attempt at a podcast. Meanwhile, a survey has emerged, essentially a public referendum on whether taxpayers should foot the bill for the world's most famous professional exit interviewer. Updated at precisely 1940 UK time, it reveals that only 20% believe Harry deserves free, taxpayer-funded protection. Nearly 40% would settle for letting him have it, but only if he pays for the privilege. 28% reject the idea entirely, while 12% are simply unsure, possibly because they've reached emotional saturation and drifted away to think about anything else. Tea, biscuits, maybe even Piers Morgan. Those watching from the political sidelines have spotted something intriguing. If the party in power wishes to look anti-monarchy without entirely burning the royal palace to the ground, what better publicity than denying police protection to the one royal currently least adored by taxpayers? The optics would be undeniably mouth-watering. "We're cutting costs," they could proclaim, "and we're starting with Prince Spare." A move so symbolic it might earn applause from Republicans, monarchists, and people who generally enjoy a good budget-cutting spectacle. The situation isn't helped by King Charles, who appears more allergic to Harry's entitlement than one might be to a garden full of blooming ragweed. According to Palace Whispers, His Majesty's patience has evaporated entirely, leaving behind the kind of silence so cold it could frost a window. Harry, however, is convinced that regaining protection is a stepping stone towards reconciliation. Yet Palace insiders insist the effort would help him as much as adding a burnt scone to a tea tray. Symbolic, yes, but ultimately useless and slightly painful. Which brings us to the question that looms over the entire saga like a cloud stubbornly refusing to move. Why is Harry still wrestling with his royal identity 5 years after quitting? Watching him attempt to renegotiate his status is like watching a man try to rejoin a gym he publicly despised, but only if they promise to keep the jacuzzi permanently reserved for him. Experts note that Ravec only reassesses security needs for actively working, high-profile royals facing sustained threats. Harry is neither working nor high-profile in any meaningful way. His public relevance has dropped faster than Netflix stock after a Sussex documentary announcement. Yet the emotional subtext blinks like neon in a London drizzle. Harry cannot accept irrelevance. He clings to the sensation of centrality, imagining himself woven into Britain's cultural heartbeat. But the country quietly moved on sometime around 2022, the same year people realized Spare was not a manifesto of courageous revelation, but a diary of frosty anatomy, family quarrels, and emotional support chickens. Ultimately, if Harry wins, taxpayers foot the bill. If he loses, he returns to California to narrate his disappointment on a platform eagerly awaiting fresh content, possibly involving guided meditations, spiritual llamas, or another heartfelt monologue about the weight of being misunderstood. The Home Office decision will arrive soon enough, but the British public has already delivered its verdict. No special treatment, no perks, no police escorts, just reality. And reality says this: Harry is simply another foreign celebrity visiting Britain. No more, no less. And King Charles intends to keep it precisely that way.